You're listening to The Main Event with Zach Gelb and Chase Sr. on WHIP.
You're the only team, maybe, in the history of the National Football League will ever have this opportunity to do it twice. Boys, I would follow you. I'd be so proud of that. I just fill up. It's not going to come easy. This is a club that's going to hit you. They're going to try to hit you. You've got to take it out of them. Just hit, just run, just block, and just tackle. You do that, there's no question what the answer is going to be in this ball. Keep your poise. There's nothing that they can show you out there. You have to face the number of times, right? Right.
Words of wisdom from the great coach Vince Lombardi. That was one of his pregame speeches before the Packers' second Super Bowl victory. And now joining us on the hotline, one of my favorite guests of all time, a two-time Super Bowl champion, was an imperative part of that Packers sweep play as the pulling guard. It's the Eagles and the Packers this Sunday at 4:25. So let's go out to one of the Lombardi players, and that's Jerry Kramer. Jerry, Zach, and Chase here in Philly. Nice to connect with you again. How are you?
Hey, Jack, I'm doing great. Chase, nice to be with you. The many hurts, there is no reason at all for having lost, and the many hurts are a small price to pay for having won.
No doubt about that. And every time we have you on, I always like to have a few questions about Coach Lombardi because I always learn so much from your massive amount of knowledge about the coach since you did get to play with him. When we played you that speech that he gave to you guys before the Super Bowl, what's the feel in the locker room? Give me the scene when Lombardi gives you one of those legendary speeches.
Coach believed that the willpower, the exertion of your will, and the foundation of it gave you an energy and gave you maybe a little strength. So he wanted you emotionally involved in the outcome of the game. He wanted you emotionally involved in your job. So he would mess with your mind to get you ready to play. And he did it in a variety of ways. Sometimes you get too high. We're getting ready to play the Bears one day down in Chicago, and it's a playoff time and late in the season, and we need to win the game, and everybody's tight. They're really pumped up, but they're too pumped up. And he calls us all together, and we're expecting another locker room speech, and he says, anybody know why the Belgian people are so strong? And we looked at one another like, what in the hell is this? Where is he going with this? And everybody was kind of stunned, and nobody said anything. He says, because they raise dumbbells.
That's classic.
That's great.
Yeah, and it brought us down a notch. It brought us down to where he wanted us to be. So he was extremely aware of that, and he was extremely good at getting us in the right place at the right time.
What was the most valuable thing that you learned from Coach Lombardi?
I learned that there's a lot of words, guys, that explain some of our philosophies and some of our principles. Words like preparation, commitment, consistency, discipline, perseverance, character, pride. All of them are really talking about the will to win, the will to excel. And that is probably the most important part of any venture in life. Not only the football field, but anything you want to do. If you have a vision and a picture and a strong desire to be there with that willpower, then you can overcome almost anything. And that's kind of the way we've lived our lives since we left Coach Lombardi, is working at it. You basically, there's a price to pay for achievement. There's a price to pay for that. And if you're willing to pay that price, you can have achievement. You can have success. You can win your ball game. If you're not willing to pay the price, then get out of the way and let somebody else come down here that will. So the fire in your belly, the want to, the hunger, the drive, the burn, that's the difference. That's the difference in almost every occasion.
Jerry Kramer joins us right now. And Jerry, it's Chase Sr. It's a pleasure to talk to you. If an athlete or a sports fan were to put together a bucket list of the top places to watch or play a game at, Lambeau Field would be right up there. What are some of the joys with playing at the historic Lambeau Field?
The fans are, now that I'm older and more aware of ways of the world and understand that the fans buy the tickets, pay for the tickets, pay for the salaries, they pay for everything. I begin to appreciate the fans more, and I watch them more, and I listen to them more. And they are so sensational, so wrapped up in the Packer mystique. I'm here signing autographs. I retired 48 years ago, and I'm still signing autographs for the Packer fans and doing appearances and doing things like that, which is the kind of things the current players are doing. So there's an incredible fan base here, and everyone that comes here comments on it. The politeness, the way the fans treat them, the way they're polite and thoughtful and everything else. So that's wonderful. The other thing that you'll never, ever, ever get over is that tunnel. There's an intensity and an energy and an emotional feeling when you're gathered with your guys ready to run out on that field and you're about to explode. And just walking out of that tunnel today to be introduced for something, just to bring us back as honorary captains once in a while, makes my heart start pounding and my breath get a little faster. And that tunnel is an incredible place. I wish everybody could experience that one time.
Green Bay is very unique in the sense that the stadium and the team is located in a smaller community compared to a lot of these other teams in the National Football League that play in big cities. How does that make the franchise and the fan base unique compared to a lot of these other NFL teams, Jerry?
I've been interacting with the fans for a long time, and I have heard at least 10,000 times that we used to go to Grandma's house every Sunday for dinner. And Mom and Dad, all the kids, Grandma would cook a big dinner, and we'd go in the living room and watch the Packers. And nobody could talk. And you couldn't walk in front of that TV set either. So all over the state, there are people growing up with the Green Bay Packers in their home and a part of their life. And as they mature and become older, they're Green Bay Packer fans, and their children, and their children. And it's a continuum here that is pretty fascinating. And people will move out and move to California. They're still Packer fans. Go to Houston, there's a Packer fan bar there, or two or three, right? There's several hundred of them across the nation. So they're just very unique fans with almost a personal relationship with the team. They do feel that they own the team. I talked to Fuzzy one day. I said, Fuzz, what is this fan base all about? What is this fanaticism that these people have? And Fuzzy got a laryngectomy, and he doesn't speak that well, but he said, we'll never leave them, Jerry. We'll never leave them. So I think there's a bit of that. This is their team. They can't pack up in the middle of the night and move to Baltimore. So the fact that we'll never leave and they have no worry about us ever leaving may be a part of it.
And there's been a plethora of legendary players to wear those Packers colors, especially at the quarterback position. And right now, we're seeing a future Hall of Famer in Aaron Rodgers, who's already taken home one Lombardi trophy. And you got to play with a pretty good quarterback as well in Bart Starr. What comparisons do you see between Aaron and your QB?
There are a lot of similarities. The quiet strength, the lack of display, the command of the field, the general in the huddle. You can see Aaron look at people every once in a while when they've run the wrong route or they've done something that they shouldn't, and he doesn't have to say much. Bart had a wonderful sense of the game and the time and the plays to call and the plays to run. And I asked him 3 or 4 years ago. I said, Bart, when you were a quarterback, and how many plays did Coach Lombardi send in to you? Oh, maybe 8 or 9, Jerry. So that's about one a year. And I suspect Aaron gets his plays, but he knows exactly where they're supposed to be and when they're supposed to be there, and he's confident. So there's a lot of things between the two of them, and he's obviously very competent. And I personally did not believe that Aaron Rodgers was going to be as great as he is. I thought it's impossible for a Bart to follow a Brett or an Aaron to follow a Brett. I'm looking at the Chicago Bears. They haven't had a great quarterback since Sid Luckman in 1942. So I had no dreams that Aaron would turn out as well as he had. In fact, I was almost certain that he wouldn't. So I think we're incredibly fortunate to have Aaron Rodgers at the helm in Green Bay.
What makes him such a lethal weapon and such a good quarterback is he's smart, he has a strong arm, and he's also really mobile and good on his feet. And the Eagles, their front seven, although they lose D'Amico Ryans, they've been sensational over the last few weeks. And in order to beat the Packers with the abundance of options that they have, you have to find a way to put Aaron Rodgers on his butt. How important is it for the Eagles to get a good rush up against the Packers on Sunday in a tough environment in Lambeau Field?
Well, Aaron will catch up if you give him time, and he is so bright about picking his receivers. Now, if the D-back is not watching the quarterback, if Aaron can't see his eyes, he'll throw that within 6 inches of the D-back's head to the receiver. So you've got to be really on your best game to get him. And again, you're exactly right. The best way to do that is to pressure him. But we know that. The offensive line knows that, and they're dedicated to taking care of him. And that's where a lot of the battle is going to be, because Aaron is so accurate and so consistent. You've got to put pressure on him to have some impact.
Jerry, in the demolition of the Bears on Sunday night, Clay Matthews moved from outside linebacker to inside linebacker, and he was able to have a huge effect on the ball game, especially stopping the Bears' rushing attack with Matt Forte. That just goes to show how talented Clay Matthews is, that he can go from one linebacker position to another and still have the same impact. He's one of the better defenders in the National Football League.
Absolutely. And it really is. When you think about it, it's an absolute no-brainer move. Mm-hmm. You know, it's so obvious that you overlook it. But he has the range, the speed, the ability to drop into coverage, or the tackling ability to whale somebody behind the line of scrimmage. So I think it was really a great move, and I think Clay is going to settle in there and have himself a wonderful time. I expect to see the same kind of game, because that's the player he is. There wasn't anything special that he did. He did the things that he had been doing for some time. So I'm pretty excited about that move, and I think that's going to make the defense much stronger.
Let's get to a newer addition to this Packers team, and that's Julius Peppers. We know he's going to be a Hall of Famer, and he's a quiet leader, but last week Coach McCarthy revealed to the media that he actually gave a speech before the Bears game, and the players were surprised with how loquacious he was and that it was one of the better speeches that he's ever heard from a player. How does Julius Peppers fit in to this defense? Because he already has 5 sacks, and he's not looking like he's getting he doesn't look like he's showing his age, Jerry. He's been really good for this football team.
Yeah, he has. I've watched him very carefully and very closely, and I think the first couple of games, Julius wasn't quite comfortable. It's kind of a new position for him, outside linebacker like that, standing up, and but then he got very comfortable with things. And to really have an impact, you don't think about doing something. You react to the situation, and you react quicker than you can think. So Julius is now comfortable with the defense and comfortable with his position, and he is reacting. And he's always had great reactions and great effort. And the question was not that he had the intelligence or had the athletic ability, but did he have the heart? Did he have the burn? Did he have the drive to play at his age? And the answer obviously is yes. So I think we're very fortunate to have him, and I had hopes that he would turn into what he is, that he would be the same player that he's been over the years. And now that just makes play stronger, and certainly it makes the defense stronger. So, yes, that was a great move, and I questioned that move, to tell you the truth. I thought Jared Allen might have been a better choice. But I'm very excited about Julius, and I'm very excited about the way he's playing.
Last one for me, Jerry. You got two of the better teams in the NFC going right now, meeting up at Lambeau Field. A team in the Packers that hasn't lost there in a while. Aaron Rodgers hasn't thrown an interception at home since December of 2012, which is incredible in and of itself. How do you see things playing out on Sunday?
I think it's going to be a good ball game. You know, and it'll probably be a very tight ball game. The Packers are awfully difficult to beat in Lambeau Field. And they know that, and the fans know that, and they know also that we're starting to talk about playoffs now. We're getting into the second half of the season, and we're looking at the competition and who's doing what, where, and how do we fit in, and where are we going to play, and what position will we have in the playoffs. So the emotions elevate a bit at this point, and there's no more flat days. There are no more guys who aren't quite prepared, who aren't quite ready. So I think it's going to be a great football game, and I expect it to be a pretty tight football game.
And these teams are so good, and it's going to play a big role in playoff seeding in the NFC. Eagles 7-2, Packers 6-3. Should be a fun one on Sunday at Lambeau Field as we're talking to Jerry Kramer, two-time Super Bowl champion. Jerry, before we let you go, what would Lombardi's message be if he had a chance to speak to this Packer squad before the game on Sunday?
All the rings, all the color, all the trophies, all the money, all the display, they are only in the memory for a short time and are soon gone. But the will to win, the will to excel, these are the things that endure. And these are the things that are much more important than any of the events that occasion them. So develop in you the will to win, the will to well. Now go out there and just block and just tackle and run and take care of your business, and you know how things are going to turn out.
Jerry, before we let you run, if they come out with a Lombardi too, I think they should have you play Coach Lombardi.
Thanks, Jack. Thanks, Chase. Nice to be with you guys.